Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the finale of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A great finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, obviously, the Flag Smashers are immediately getting into action, but so is Bucky. Obviously, Sharon's on the ground floor helping out as well. It's like, full pardons and all that. She's like, well, that was kind of fine notion and everything, but obviously no one's really looking for her, so it's like, considering the circumstances, so it's like she can obviously help under these circumstances. And I love that we're just kind of seeing like far off view. It's still cloaked in shadow until we haven't seen Sam like fully suited up till he goes through the window and it's like, hell yeah. I think this is like very, I've seen it once. I haven't seen it recently. It's been a while. But I've seen what his suit looks like in the comic books. I think this is a little, obviously, like very like comic book accurate from what I'm remembering off the top of my head. Like I remember seeing it like a picture of Sam as Captain America from like years ago. But nevertheless, I was like, oh shit, looking dope. And so home dude who's there trying to kill him and is like, oh, I want a shot at the Falcon. Obviously, Sam's doing a little hand-to-hand combat, doing a little bit combat with the shield too, even at one point in time, like flipping up, grabbing it up, like bashing home dude in the head. But once again, just like how he's able to kind of, integrate his fighting style as Falcon, even like boosting with the shield and knocking home dude back. And he's like, well, I'm telling dude, au revoir, throws the shield through the window, takes off and flies and grabs it. I'm like, this is too sick. It's also because it's like, even when he's being shot at, he can still be flying, pull out the shield to block and everything. It's like, yo, I forgot what it was. Basically, he was, at one point, he was saving someone. I think, a helicopter was going down, and he ended up, getting like Red Wing to like grab one and like yank him away. The other one he ended up grabbing and ended up going to the ground. And I thought, oh, it looks so sick. He has like the shield at the center and then like the wings on the side. I was like, that image in itself, like that looks so fucking sick. At the same time, you have Bucky talking to like Carly, and I thought that was such an interesting conversation because she's like, why are you like, you don't have to do this, but for him it's like, I gotta stop you. Like he's even suggesting like, hey, you can stop, because he's like coming from someone in my position, because she's like, like I'm trying to fight for something much larger than myself, like after all the people you killed and stuff, like can you say the same? And he's like, I fought for something larger than me and failed twice. I'm assuming he's talking about like World War II, I'm assuming. But I'm curious, like, when he specifically references the second time, what was it? Was it specifically, like, any time he was, like, under Hydra's control and all that? Or was he talking about maybe the events of Civil War, like, trying to fight, trying to do good in a war? Maybe just anything associated with him, like, fighting with the Avengers, like, Thanos and everything. It's like, yeah, but it's like, at the end of it all, like, it's still, like, obviously he's struggling with his past and stuff. Like, I'm curious what he specifically was referencing when he said, like, at least the second time. Like I said, I'm pretty sure World War I was like, World War II was like what he was referencing the first time, was one of those times, but I'm not quite sure what he meant by the other time. But for him, it's like, listen to me, kid. I know, like, I've literally been in your shoes before. You don't have to do this. You can find another way. But, that was just Carly buying enough time so that the Flag Smashers could get away, like, because they had locked up, like, some of the GRC people. And so, because obviously the plan is like, okay, at first it was like, we'll kidnap them and we can use them as negotiation pieces for this, build this, be passed and stuff like that. But Carly's changed it, so it's like, we're going to kill them now. And it's like, and I think that's so interesting because it's like, this isn't like some well-organized organization. It's amateurs. I mean, to be fair, I think that's kind of like any revolution. Revolutions aren't always these well-equipped, I mean, they have some structure and power, but it's like they are like just kind of like people kind of flying by the seat of their pants to a certain extent. So it is a situation where, it's like it does seem like she kind of stumbles from time to time into moving into the next step. It's like, we can't negotiate with, let's kill him. Like, it's just like she's not really got everything, because everyone else is kind of like, so she was like, one world, and no one's saying anything. She's like, one world, and it's like, one people, so because even they're kind of reluctant to go down the route that she wants to kind of go down. But Bucky like chasing after them. I even love that thing of him like wheeling up on the bike slamming and kind of jetting him forward and kind of slingshotting him and him doing his thing. But what I thought was a neat development, obviously you got your boy Walker showing up. Obviously he's got the shield. Obviously it's a makeshift shield. It's not made of vibranium, so it's not as strong. He's doing his thing, but it doesn't have the same like bounce to it. So like when he throws it, it doesn't do the like ricochet that, you know, the OG shield does. So, and even at the end of it all, like his shields ended up getting smashed up, because especially like when he gets on the ground and they're kind of beating the crap out of him. But him staring at that Tim, because I thought it was interesting. There's a line between him and Carly where Carly was like, I didn't mean to kill your friend Lamar. Kind of saying like his life wasn't worth it or something. Like he's like, whoa, you're saying Lamar's life wasn't worth it? She's like, not for what I'm trying to do. Like killing him it came out the wrong way, but what she was kind of trying to say is like killing him wasn't advancing her plan. It didn't advance her cause, you know? So, you know, but she could have said it and worded that in a better way, but obviously that just pissed John off more. But obviously, like, you know, luckily, Bucky's there to like lend a hand during the fight and stuff like that. Obviously everybody going toe to toe, and at one point like Bucky like falling and doing the superhero landing, and that other Flag Smasher coming with that steel beam pipe down on him. Luckily he's able to block it with his metal arm, but just the entire fight situation, and obviously Carly trying to get the truck to kind of drop, and you had that moment where Carly's right there and John's there, and it's like, well, what are you going to do, John? John throws down a shield and he grabs the vehicle. He's trying to pull it up. It's like, there's your hero moment, John, because it's like, you know, what little, like, you know, because he had looked at the metal previously, and, you know, it's like doing the right, what did Lamar say, that when the time came, like, you would do the right thing in the heat of the moment, and it's, yeah, the right thing to do then wasn't to like go get revenge. It was to help those people. And I was like, yeah, John. I was like, yeah, John. So you're not like an once again, like the episodes have been very like making you understanding of like John and just what, you know, and everything. So I think it is a redemption of like, he's not like 100% a bad guy, because you do kind of feel for him and you do understand for him. You don't agree with everything he's done, obviously, but it is a situation, you know, or at least the very least how he's handled a lot of things. But in that moment, you're like, yeah, John, and you're like trying to like, he's holding him off while like trying to like pull the vehicle, and they all fall, and it's like, oh, the vehicle's gonna fall, but your boy Sam comes in. It's like, right, no super soldier serum, but he's doing his thing. The jets on both were like, you know, Red Wing and everything, and he's just, it's like, yeah, and it's like, oh my god, hey, it's the Black Falcon, and the dude's like, nah, that's Captain America. You're like, yeah. It gets you so pumped and hyped. Obviously going after them, you know, it's like, dude, it's actually pretty dope seeing Bucky, John, and Falcon all kind of go after him all at once. So I'd actually skipped over it too, like the plane situation where it's like, all right, here's someone on a plane that can fly, and he like, it was like, all right, to five, you know, on one, you know, we got to do this quick, and I love the whole thing of like taking the shield, throwing it, busting open the door, grabbing the shield, and flying through and knocking home dude out the plane. And luckily, that lady was able to kind of take control of the plane and everything. It's like, whoops, total smooth action. But when they're trailing everybody on foot later on, and everyone ends up splitting up, obviously John and Bucky ended up capturing the others, and it's like, oh, they were able to kind of use the tracker, I guess, to lead them in the wrong way, or to very least know where they were heading. And he makes some quote or something like that, and even Bucky being like, wow, did you quote Lincoln? It's like, yeah, great, man. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't great coming from like you quoting it or whatever, something like that. So it's like, yeah, it's just nice to see kind of John on the right side of things, of like how things were handled. But obviously, you know, Carly and Sharon meet face to face, and it's a situation of obviously revealing that she's the power broker, and it's like, well, come back to me. It's like, guys, she's like, I was in your shoes, like you reminded me of like a younger me, so I took you in. And it's like, come on, you guys come back and work for me. And it's just it's like, no, I don't want what you want. You want to build a powerful empire and stuff like that. I want to change the world. And it's like, you know, because for her, for Carly, it's like, even if I die, it doesn't matter. Even if we die, it doesn't matter, because our cause will live beyond us. And, you know, we sparked something in so many people. So, you know, that's kind of what matters, is the impact that it has going forward. So, but the fact is, you kind of hear from Carly to be like, oh yeah, that's kind of all Sharon cares about, is being, you know, the power broker, and it's like all kind of obsessed with power, and that's all. And it's like, there's still obviously a lot to her story we don't know, like, you know, being on a run, kind of having to be a criminal and do whatever it takes to survive on your own. And it's like, especially considering you're literally a Carter, and they say this later on, that name holds so much, you know, it holds so much weight and trust that it's almost like, yeah, like, then why wasn't I just kind of like, I wasn't given the leeway that so many other people were, you know? So she was kind of on her own, cast to the darkness during that like 5-year period. So, well, the 2 years she was on the run plus the 5-year in between. So it's just kind of like, I guess when you've done whatever you needed to survive, it's just kind of like, it changes. A lot can change in, like, once again, 7 years, you know? So, but turns out Home Dude was there to keep an eye on Carly. Turns into a shootout. Sharon gets shot. Home Dude ends up getting dead. Luckily, Sam shows up in time. And I even thought that was an interesting... and I'm skipping over so much, but that line when they first saw each other, because she's like, you've bought into this bullshit, and for him, I'm trying... And Sam said, I'm trying something different. Maybe you should try it too. And so for him, it's like, Carly, don't do this. You'll have to do... And she's telling Sam to back away. But when the time comes, like, Sam's like, I don't want to fight you. And she's doing everything she can to fight him. And it kind of actually reminded me a little bit of when Steve was trying to reach out to Bucky during Winter Soldier. It reminded me of that. Which I don't want to fight you. I'm trying to help you. And just, he's like blocking her blows and stuff like that. But obviously for her, it's like, she's like, fight me. And, you know, but Sam won't. It's like, for him, it's like, things don't have to go down this right way. And so Carly pulls a gun on him, and it's just like holding it, and it's like, it looks like she would have pulled the trigger. I don't know. But Sharon puts her down, which is like, you're also kind of like, it's not like she did that for altruistic reasons. It's like, oh, it's the right thing to do. It's like, also, she knows too much about your operation. She knows you're the power broker. Can't really Home Dude, it's like, because she even said herself, it's like, oh, I don't do well with blackmail. So she ended up killing Home Dude because he knows. Because she was like, he was like, pay me 4 times what you were going to owe. You were going to initially pay me, or I'm going to let the world know that you're the power broker. So the secret dies with both of them, but even Carly at the end being like, I'm sorry. Because that's the thing of like, it's not like Carly was this like, oh, I'm trying to take it away. It's like, no, she was a girl who was just, you know, trying to fix the world in her own way. Like, she felt like there was no other way, because it was just like, you know, the world was one way, and then it flipped upside down, and then it continued to be flipped upside down even when it kind of got restored. And I thought it was this beautiful visual of just like Sam holding her body, flying down in front of everybody, you know, and everyone witnessing it, and everyone congratulating him for everything, you know. And obviously the conversation, all right, Falcon, well, or Captain America, what do we call it, Captain Falcon? And the whole conversation of him kind of talking about the way things are and just how the GRCs handle things. It's like, because it's a whole conversation about like, do you believe in, you know, what, you know, letting these people stay in these encampments and stuff like that. And he was like, yes, like where they were kind of like set up and stuff like that. Like, but it's like, oh, but what about the people who like were going for 5 years and come back and find like their homes and stuff like that? People living in, like, what do, you know? And that senator was trying to say like, it's a complicated thing, which, yes, it's a complicated situation. It's not an easy thing, but, you know, it's like, but he's trying to tell Sam, is like, oh, you don't understand. And Sam's like, no, you're right. It is a complicated thing, but you're telling me I don't understand? I'm a black man wearing these stripes. And he talks about the complexity of it, but he's also talking about like look at you guys. He's like, look at this entire situation. Like, you know, the fact of the matter is, like, what caused this? It was someone coming in, wiping out half the planet, like that scary power. And it's like, you guys have powers on your own, kind of, because he used the analogy of like, oh, an insane God, and then there's you guys, because you can, like, you guys have the power and the resource. It's like you could, I'm blanking on the exact examples, but he was saying like that with a phone call, you could do this, you could do that, you could feed so many people, you could do this. Like, there's so much money and power here that you could do so much, and suggesting like, you know, For Sam, it's a situation of there are so many people standing right here, right now, watching or whatever, who are going to hate me just because, it comes down to it, like, I'm a black man being Captain America. That's not going to sit well with a lot of people. But the fact of the matter is, I might not have the super soldier serum. I might not be blonde-haired, blue-eyed. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to do what I believe in, And he's asking, the senator, and then it's like, you guys have got to, basically he wants there to be this middle ground that needs to be a conversation, because the fact of the matter is, if you don't fix things, if we don't work to find some way moving forward together, there's going to be another Carly. It's like, he's like, because we've spent so much time saying words like thug, terrorist, and this and that. The question is why? No one's taking time to ask why this girl went off and did what she did. Why so many people back and believe what she believes and still believe what she believes. So it shows don't just use these labels to just simply group them together, understand why this all happened. And it's like, you guys are so caught up in everything that you haven't, because you're so focused basically on everything on such a large scale, you are forgetting about the individual people. That's what people are at the end of the day, are individual people. And each one had their own stories. Carly's story isn't like it's something rare amongst these situations. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have very similar story, because that's why they believed in her calls and everything, because to them it's like, because to other people, it's like the GRC and everything, it's almost like you're representing the 1%, and that's the thing, that Sam was kind of getting at. For the first time, what it felt like to be powerless. You understand, because it's been a situation of you've never walked in the other person's shoes, feeling powerless, feeling like you can't do anything. Now you do. Now that you understand that, maybe now you can be more understanding going forward and finding, and I thought it was I think I'm not doing it justice. I didn't think Sam did such a fantastic job of just kind of doing the Captain America thing and just, being that bridge, that middle ground, saying that's what it should be, a conversation, a middle ground, on how we should handle things going forward, or we will have a repeat of the situation. There will be another Carly. There'll be a Carly 2.0, and you're not going to like that, so I thought that was, it's kind of neat, and obviously on the side you have Sam and John, and obviously when he was done, you had Sam walking away, and then, kind of giving John the nod, and, Bucky kind of sending him off, being like, Sharon had the conversation about oh, you look good in a suit and everything. It's like, thanks, so Bucky leaves with Sharon, and Sam ends up, it's like, hey, one of the Flag Smashers fell in the way. You mind helping us? He's like, no problem, and he jets off. I thought it was so interesting where it's like that cop or whatever was like, one world, one people, and it's like, all right, obviously there's still people, so the Flag Smashers message is still out there, so it's not over. And then the vehicle kept going and it explodes. I was like, because I thought I was like, oh, they're about to be broken out, or they're about to be sent to the raft. But then we see the old man, and I was like, who is he again? And I was like, right, I had to remind myself, right, that's Zemo's dude. It's like, right. So, and that's the thing. Even if Sharon hadn't killed Carly, she would have died in the end, because that was all because the one that Sam rescued plus the 3 that were already arrested are in there. So all the Flag Smashers are dead now. That doesn't mean the calls and that group won't resurface in some shape or form later on in the MCU. That obviously someone else doesn't kind of pick up that mantle and belief, but more so than anything, Zemo was probably I believe in what you believe in. It's more so I just can't have super soldiers running amok and doing their thing, supremacy and all that. Obviously, he's making an exception with Bucky and John, just because John's probably one thing. I don't know how Zemo's going to necessarily feel about that. They haven't. Well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, since he took. Well, because Zemo had. Disappeared by the time Walker had already taken the serum, so he doesn't have an opportunity. I'm assuming he knows John has the serum. Maybe he doesn't. But he knows Bucky, but obviously they settled things last episode. For him, it's also you were a weapon, and you're no longer that weapon anymore. You're your own person, and you're your own hero, so it's I'm not going to, kill you. He made that clear last episode, so... so he's just going to let Bucky... Because Bucky's shown, no supremacy or anything like that, that he is going to find his own way, that he isn't the Winter Soldier anymore in that regard, so... But the point I was making is should have figured as much. Zemo wasn't going to let there be a whole 4 super soldiers just running amok, especially because all 4 of them were going to head over to the raft too. He would have found a way to kill them anyway. Just some shape or form, he would have found a way to kill them. But, well, he did, but he did it before they actually got to the raft. Hell, even before they were literally driving for 10 seconds and then it blew up, so... Zemo wins in the end, I guess. He gets what he wants, and at one point you just see him in the cell, just reading, relaxing, and it's like, everything goes according to plan. So I'm biding my time until my time is called upon yet again, So there's that aspect to things. Obviously, the big thing, too, is I was curious based on some discussions about last episode about how Isaiah would feel about it, because I was wondering, because I think Mark had wondered if Isaiah, Mark and Kevin were talking about it last week's episode, and Mark was kind of wondering how Isaiah was going to react to Sam becoming Captain America, and it seemed like hearing what Sam had to say and seeing Sam is just like, oh, look at you. It's like, hey, you chose, it's not going to be an easy road, but Sam, it's like, yeah, it might not be the easiest thing, but it's the road I chose. The fact he's like, well, Black Captain America, and Sam's like, you're damn right. He's like, we built this country. We fought for this country. We bled for this country. The fact of the matter is, no one's going to tell me I can't fight for this country. For him, it's like, there's been too much sacrificed already. And so for him, it's a big fight. He's like, I may fail. Hell, I might even die. But the fact is, this is what he believes in, and he's going to fight for it. He's going to stand up for it, And I thought that was a beautiful, thing. And even Isaiah, it's like, yeah, he's like, now you ain't no Malcolm, you ain't no Mandela. And he's like, I know, but for Sam, it's like, all I can do is just be me. That's all he can be. There's no being Steve Rogers, because this is something Steve could never do. Sam is in a position to handle things the way he can, the only way he can, because no one else can do this but him in this way, And so he takes Isaiah to the museum and shows him the section dedicated to him. It's like, this way the world never forgets what you did for it, ever, And Isaiah is just, kind of shakes his hand, but also hugs him to kind of thank him for everything, So I thought that was beautiful. Obviously, the world doesn't know Isaiah's still alive, but they will never forget what he actually did for this country. That was buried deep and lost to history, but it's like, no, never forget your history, Never forget everyone who sacrificed for you to be where you are right now, So I thought that was a beautiful thing. And then also Bucky finally truly making amends and explaining to his buddy, like, I'm the Winter Soldier's the one that killed your son. That was me. And it's like, why? It's like, I didn't have a choice. And we just see, like, Bucky's obviously leaving the room, but it's like, and we see later on he's checking in. He sees, like, the lady he went on the kind of date with, but it's like seeing his friend is like out and about in the world. It's like they can never be friends again, because it's like it's just going to be a constant reminder. So Bucky can't be around, because I think for Bucky, also being around him was him trying to make amends in his own way then as well. But it's like me being around, like, it's just going to cause him more pain. I killed his son, so. But it's like, I think seeing that he was okay, that he was being taken care of, that he was still living, like, I think it gave him some peace finally knowing what happened to his son. And then Bucky gave the book to his therapist, thanking her, had crossed out all the names and finally completely made amends, so. And then we had, Sam, everyone's kind of celebrating him and everything back home, Bucky showing up. And I love the whole thing. He's talking to someone and the kids are on his arm and he's lifting him up and stuff like that. It's a pretty dope moment. It's like this celebrity moment for Sam, but then also like Bucky's kind of beside him, it was just this nice moment of everything and everyone coming together. And it's just like legitimately, it felt like, and that's the whole point a lot of people have been making. It doesn't feel like the end of like a show. It feels like the end of a movie. It felt like you were watching an MCU movie that you just like, it finally like came to an end. It's what you kind of felt in that regard, and I thought was so interesting. Another element to it, I love it. It's like Valentina being like, oh wow, I guess everything worked out in the end. It's almost like, I, orchestrated everything myself. Or did I? I'm just kidding. or am I? I love that. And she just kind of raising her eyebrow. I'm like, I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus so much. She's so good. I was like, I love you as this character. And it's like, what's taking him so long? What's he doing in there? And she's like, and Walker's wife is like, it's probably the helmet. And obviously he comes out. She's like, he's like, it's the same, but it's black. She's like, yeah. See, the fact of the matter is, there's gonna be moments where it's like, they're not gonna need a Captain America. They're gonna need U.S. agent. And it's like, okay, but also no shield. So I'm curious, is he gonna make like another makeshift shield, or like what's that's gonna look like? I mean, to be fair, he has a super soldier serum, so it's not like he needs it. You know, it's like I think I'm curious, it's because I think he does have a shield in the comics. I don't know, you know, but I also think that's interesting because I like where he stands, because it's not a thing of like, oh, yes, like he's been stripped of his rank and stuff like that, and you can never work with the U.S., but it is a thing of like, you know, like covert operations, like when the dirty work when the work needs to be done, that, you know, it's like, oh, we can't have Captain America do it. Let's send in U.S. agent. Now, what the rest of the squad's potentially looking like, because some people have kind of thought like the Thunderbolts, stuff I don't know anything about, but I've heard people discuss some stuff like this, of like maybe Valentina could be someone who could end up setting some of that up, because usually it's General Ross who ends up leading putting together the Thunderbolts, but they're suggesting like maybe she's the one in this continuity about who she, because also since between episodes I have learned who she is. There's kind of an amalgamation of different stuff of who she is, because in comic books, old school, like she's like Nick Fury's girlfriend. She's like top level like SHIELD agent who also like double crossed and worked for Hydra, but also double crossed Hydra. Even at one point being there's a character named Madam Hydra. People are suggesting maybe she is too. So it might be a thing of, like I said, she might be like an amalgamation of different things of, you know, maybe two different, because some people were making it seem like those are two different characters, while some people were making it seem like it might have been the same character. But I think it's like she's kind of supposed to be like an amalgamation, maybe. But like obviously the Hydra conversation keeps coming up. Like, well, what about Hydra? And to me, I'm so curious about that too, because it's like Agents of Shield, like. You know, I mean, for one, Hydra's never completely dead. You cut off one head, another grows, yada, 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 so forth. Like, Hydra's never really that easy to get rid of. So, it does seem like they are prepping to bring Hydra back into the fold, but it also makes you wonder, what are they going to keep continuity-wise? Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kept dealing with Hydra over and over again. Like, that... Like, because even up to season 4... I don't know if in retrospect, I don't think there was anything in season 5 or there's definitely stuff in the final season that deals with Hydra. That's a whole thing. I won't spoil anything for you. I want to say season 4 might have been the last thing to deal with Hydra, but that was also kind of a Madam Hydra thing too. The whole thing with Aya, the LMD storyline. So it's not a 1-for-1, I don't think. But like I think if I remember correctly, she went by Madam Hydra. So. That's the thing. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is technically in the continuity, is technically not. So that's why I'm curious, like how much they're going to acknowledge about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like that's probably like depending on what they do with Hydra and continuing forward in the MCU, will probably determine what they decided to keep as canon and what is retcon from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm assuming Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't technically canon. Sadly, I just feel like it gets left out in the dust. It already was, but even more so now that it's done, and just where they're planning on going for it, you know. So I'm so curious to see what Valentina's whole deal would be. I'd also learned too that apparently we're supposed to first get introduced to her in the Black Widow movie, then this, but obviously out of order. So that's definitely going to be interesting to know the context of when she pops up in Black Widow, under what those circumstances are. And, you know, obviously it's like, well, we've got stuff set up here, so it'll probably give us a better picture of potentially what else she's up to once we meet her in Black Widow. Because, once again, we don't know, like, I'd assume that means, like, at the end of Black Widow. Oh, not unless we meet her, because Black Widow's taking place, like, after Civil War, but before Infinity War. So, either we meet her in that time frame, or there's going to be some, like, much like... post Endgame Black Widow stuff that's taking place before all this Falcon and I would assume all this Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff. So But then we also get the stinger too about Sharon. She's like, oh, back to her regular position. She's like, oh, I'm so honored. But it's like, okay, so what are you going to do? And it's like, all right, I'm going to keep doing the shady stuff. I'm going to do it. I don't think she's necessarily going to be a villain, but I think it's going to be the thing of she's just going to be like I exist here. Oh, I'm getting access to all these weapons and stuff like that. Plus, I get to keep my powerful, cushy position while also doing my shady nighttime job as the like power broker. So I think she's more so going to be like, I'm not a bad guy, but I'm not necessarily a good guy. I'm kind of a very neutral. I'm Switzerland. I'm neutral in this, and everyone, good and bad, are going to come to me for help because obviously it's like Sam and Bucky have no idea about her being the power broker. No one does. Except for probably like maybe her inner circle, like if she even really has one. But I'm curious. Also, like, when's the next time we see anything from Madripoor? I mean, I'm assuming like things on her side of it. Like, I think that's where we'll see Sharon next. It's just kind of like still doing some shady stuff as a power broker, but once again, just kind of playing both sides. Like, in it for the money, the power, and the position and stuff like that. Like what she's planning on trying to actually accomplish is just like, is she just like power hungry? It's just like, oh, I went so long being kind of branded this and just kind of left alone in the dust that I had to, get scraps to survive. I'm never going to be that weak or low in the totem pole again. I'm always going to be at the top. Like people are going to have to answer to me. What her ultimate goal is, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But also need to talk about it's not the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So that's pretty dope. So, because that was always the big question. Like, at the end of this, would Sam become Captain America? And he did. So when we see Sam next, it ain't Sam Wilson, the Falcon. Sam Wilson, Captain Mother effing America, dude. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of, ultimately go from here. So looking through some of the stuff, it's still been the conversation of whether or not this show is getting a second season. Some people are using the fact that Disney is pushing for this as a drama. I think, what is it, on the Oscar front? Or was it some awards front? They're pushing this for a drama rather than like a limited series. So suggesting like they potentially could, because the conversation is whenever we pick up next with a lot of these characters, whether it is in particular Sam and Bucky, it's probably going to be in a movie storyline, but there is always potential for later on for them to kind of pick things up. It won't be the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It'd be Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So if it comes back, it's going to technically be under this new titling. At the very least, maybe the next time we see them will be in a movie titled that. So maybe there won't be a show titled Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Maybe the next Captain America movie will be that, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I don't know. We'll see like what they end up doing on that front, kind of to delineate between like Steve and Falcon going forward. Maybe like because putting the two together like that does delineate the difference between like so when you see Captain America and the Winter Soldier, like obviously you won't immediately think of Captain America 2, the Winter Soldier, but it's still like I'm curious, like are they going to delineate any other way or not? But so that, like I said, that's just like the conversation currently. So obviously a lot of these other character stories like Valentina, U.S. agent, we haven't seen the end of them. Obviously, everything Sharon's up to. So the story's closed in this regard. This story's closed, but obviously it still opens the door for so much more in the grander MC universe. So, like I said, next time we see like Bucky and Sam in particular, it'll probably be in the form of like a movie, but there is always room for them to make a season 2 or whatever. Obviously, the next thing coming out will be Loki in June, if I'm not mistaken. So, got a little while away, but I am curious to see, what that means for the MCU's future going forward. Obviously, everything from WandaVision and this and just everything post-Endgame, like what this means for the greater universe. Because it's not just, we're not just moving forward, we're also expanding upon the past by introducing storylines like Isaiah Bradley. Like that kind of flushes out the past to make you realize, obviously it's like wait, there's been this dark secret in the MCU we've just never known about? Yeah, so there's still like plenty of like past that they can fill in as well, so it's not just the future we have to look forward to. There is some past stuff that like will have a major effect that they can kind of add in stuff to be like, yeah, well, I'm sure like the Eternals are going to touch on that because I think the Eternals is going to span like a crap ton of time. I'm under the impression, so. But like I said, any news on an actual season 2 is unclear. There's really been no discussions, but that could just be them being coy, like, yeah, there are no discussions on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier getting a season 2, but Captain America and the Winter Soldier getting a season 1. You know, it might be one of those cheeky things like that. I didn't know this either, but like Torres is the next Falcon in the comic books. So I've heard people talk about that too. So that's another like open thing of like, right, there's no longer a Falcon currently, but you know, until Torres most likely ends up fixing Sam's wings and kind of does his thing, you know. So, but like I said, a great finale in general. I think it did a really nice job like closing up all the stories, while also, you know, wrapping things up for now. And I'm really interested to see where we all end up seeing these characters going forward, you know. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.